Okay, this is June 20, 2021, here in Kitchener, Ontario, Zone 5. And in this video, I want to talk about the layout of the pathway through the garden, the layout of the hardscaping and the walkways. And I guess it's kind of interesting. I think it has good visual interest. And it arose sort of by accident. And despite arising by accident, I think it's very interesting how a pattern and a theme has kind of emerged and it kind of unifies the whole thing. So, in short, the theme is sort of a zigzag or a herringbone branching pattern, maybe a sort of a, to some extent, almost a fractal branching pattern. And the way this kind of arose by accident, I mean, we can quickly map it out here. There's this section here near the house, this old cement pad. This sort of runs pretty much exactly north-south. So this large cement pad here, which is right up against the house. So that's running north-south. And, then we have this dry riverbed feature, this gravel pit drainage feature, which gives the walk out into the yard, and that runs now east-west, pretty much exactly east-west. And as we follow that along, we have that section there, which runs, again, north-south. There's the long section running out into the yard, that's east-west. Coming off that, there's, little side branches, which are north-south. And, tucked in behind there along the fence line and running in between, there's a few more segments that run east-west. And it has this kind of zigzag herringbone rhythm to it. Which just arose kind of organically as this thing grew out into the yard. So again, this, the old pad came with the house very, we can call that the zeroth element, running north-south. And then this dry riverbed, that was the very first thing I added to this yard many years ago, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, maybe 9 years ago. Google Photos keeps telling me, showing me old photos. I think this was maybe 9 years ago. I put in the dry riverbed as a drainage feature to keep mud from, this was all lawn. It was, you can imagine, almost all of this was just lawn, and mud would run in. So I put in this dry riverbed to kind of solve that. So then that kind of, first we had the north-south, following the polarity of the house, the natural polarity of the house. You want to get from the garage to the back door, and you want access all along the back wall of the house. So natural polarity of the original construction, north-south pad. Natural polarity of wanting to walk out into the yard, because there were these beds here that were planted, these hosta beds. So there's just this path out into the yard. That's natural polarity east-west to get out into the yard. And having put in this this drainage feature, the dry riverbed, as I call it, which it isn't really, it's not in any way a dry riverbed, but I call it that. Having put in that, next thing I wanted to do, I wanted a nice clean walkway to get to the door in the shed. I didn't want this to just be muddy lawn and getting grass all over my feet, so the next thing I put in was this section, and here we are with a north-south section. So a rhythm of north-south with the pad, east-west with the dry riverbed, north-south with the first section of pavers, getting me to the garage door, or the shed door. And then shortly after that, I put in this first raised bed. This was the first one I put in. And I put it in here because this gets some of the best sun in the yard. It doesn't get the very best sun, but it gets some of the best sun, and it's kind of tucked in behind the garage here. And in order to, I wanted to terrace it like this and kind of have it sloped up away from the sun. That has a north-south polarity. So just kind of following the natural polarity of, the garage wants to run that way, the sun wants the terrace to run that way. I put the raised bed in there, and then I wanted a walkway around it. And so, a walkway around, it kind of gives you 4 corners. Each corner is a zigzag. And so we have this section here at the front, which is an east-west. This section here, running along the length is north-south, and then again a east-west section at the back there. So again, we have this branching herringbone kind of pattern. And the second bed I put in was this one back there. I think that one gets the very best sun. And that one, I wanted that one, having put in this one already, which ran in the one direction along the garage. This one now I wanted to run kind of along the fence line. And again, all this whole area out here was just lawn, and it all looked like this. It was all just kind of construction and chaos and havoc and terrible. But gradually I was conquering it, kind of one bed a year with these beds, and that one I ran to follow the fence line, and so that's an east-west. So we had this, north-south polarity naturally pulling the bed in this direction. We have the fence line pulling that one in a east-west polarity direction, and then to have walking paths around that. Again, that's there's 4 corners to that rectangle. You get a zigzag at each corner, and so that's the, again, the zigzag thing just kind of starts emerging. Once you have these 2 beds, they form this crook, this area here, which was the obvious spot for the 3rd bed I built. So this is number 3. And I kind of name these, this one, being the first bed I built, I call this the old bed. That one getting the best sun, I call that the sun bed. This 3rd bed, it gets the worst sun, I call it the shade bed, and it's got this east-west polarity. And eventually I managed to get the patio now I've got this kind of main drag running all the way through the yard. And so that has the east-west polarity. And then finally I had this last bed, so I call this the new bed. And then that has, it was obvious the best fit for it was to go north-south with it. So again, just this zigzag herringbone thing. And that's got, paths around it that then follow that orientation. And again, you get corners, you get T-junctions. And that herringbone rhythm, the T-junctions, that echoes the style of the paver itself. So all the pavers they're not exactly a herringbone, they're mixed sizes and shapes, but they always have a T-junction as a herringbone pattern would. So everything in here is kind of T-junctions, zigzags. I've stepped out into the shade here because my phone is complaining. Let's go all the way back here and just kind of get the sense of the zigzag. Right, and so it kind of creates this, if you watch a Bob Ross video, does he draw the river straight down the middle? He never does. He always zigzags it through the field of view. And so that's kind of what's going here. We've got the river running, left to right, right to left, left to right, right to left. And you can see kind of branches now as there's these elevated features in the garden kind of hide it. But you can kind of see just with the shape and with the flow of the lines in those raised beds, you can kind of glimpse just off in the distance. You can see, oh my God, yeah, it zigzags again, doesn't it? Right? It's zigzag, 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 and it's, even back there where I can't see, it's zigzagging again, isn't it? So I think that really kind of unifies things, gives it there's a nice mystery to it. There's a nice kind of, it lures you in, it makes your eye move. And the last thing I want to mention, which is really cool as a math nerd, is I'm pretty sure this follows a kind of a Fibonacci ratio. Lo and behold, what a thing. So I think this is about maybe 7 or 8 feet wide, the pad. The walkway here, this is wider than that. This kind of breaks the ratio, but by the time I've got it lined with stuff, it ends up being 6 or 7 feet of clearance through here. This section of pavement is 4.5 feet wide, right? So we're stepping down, we're getting narrower. The main drag through here is 3 feet, and then all the little, the tiniest little side branches, the parts that go around the back that I've done in this diamond style paver, those are all 2 feet. So you've got this pretty damn close to 1.6 ratio, stepping down, stepping down, stepping down as you get out into the fringes of this organically growing shape. And I didn't plan it that way, but it's kind of the thing where, rather than add another foot of width to this section, I kind of, you look at it and you go, what would I rather do with those stones? I'd rather get distance out to the fence line. And so just in much the same way, natural growth, it's got to spend the resources in a kind of an efficient way, and that's where you get the golden ratio. That's where you get this Fibonacci branching ratio. Well, lo and behold, it just showed up right here. So anyway, that's the zigzag garden layout. It happened by accident. I think it would be an excellent thing to deliberately design, because I think it works really, really well. Anyway, let's end it there. See you in the next one.